Welcome back to the show, everybody. I have on Miss Michelle Thames. Michelle, I was just kind of nerding out with you on all the amazing things that you're doing. It seems like you are just so multifaceted. You kind of created this brand for yourself as a blogger, went to working with major brands, helped them make millions and millions of dollars. And then now you also have this agency, you have your podcast. It sounds like you have a couple different things in the works, but I'm so excited to have you on the show and to just get right into all of it.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat. I'm sure we can nerd out about marketing all day.
Absolutely. Awesome. So why don't you tell us like how this all got started? Because I think one of the things that intrigued me most about you is how you went from blogger to marketing strategist and working with brands to owning the agency and really helping cultivate these brands from a larger scale perspective with services and different things like that. So how did this all start?
Yeah, so I started in this space as a natural hair blogger and influencer back in 2009. There wasn't really a lot of influencer talk back then. So everybody was like blogging on WordPress, or I'm dating myself blogger, which is like really, really old. And so I started back then because I was going through my natural hair journey. I was, teaching other women and helping other women style their hair with different products. I was reviewing different products on my page. And then one day a brand reached out and they were like, oh, we want to sponsor a blog post. And I'm like, oh, you can get paid for actually doing this. My background isn't even in marketing. It's in healthcare administration. But in 2016, I was fortunately for me, fired from my job, which pushed me into leaning more into the creative work that I was doing. So I started doing freelance writing for some online publications like naturallycurly.com, which is an online space for people to come and learn about different hair products, all those things. So I started to write for them. And I'm like, I can definitely do this type of work in social media for different people. So at the time that I was, in between jobs, I was laid off. I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do next? And so I got this amazing opportunity by putting myself out there on social media to work for this multi-million-dollar brand, Maya Organics. They started out as a startup company. And so I worked with them in the beginning. I was the social media team, the whole digital team, from influencer marketing, email marketing, social media, the e-commerce on the website, blogging. I ran the blog and managed some blog writers, event marketing, going to events, trade shows. So I really got the chance to really understand marketing from a different point of view, not my own point of view, because I was already building my personal brand. And so I knew how that worked. But now being able to work with the company and really help to develop their marketing. So I got that amazing opportunity. I started there in 2016 and it was amazing. But sometimes you want your own dreams. And I had this personal brand and now I have these skills and I'm like, I can help so many more people. And just the online world and just people starting their own businesses and, making money doing what they love. I wanted to do that too. I wanted to work from anywhere and go to the beach with my daughter and be able to pick her up from school. And so I had to make a really tough decision. And I left my job to build our marketing agency and just to, be at home with my daughter. That was really important to me. So that's my long story short. Me and my husband own our marketing agency together, and it's been a really fun ride. I love also the aspect of my personal brand. I think personal branding is important for people in general because my personal brand helped me build my business. Because people know who I am and what I have built, it was easy for me to tie everything all together. So that's my short story.
I mean, I love that. I also love that you own the marketing agency with your husband. So for those listening, I mean, the first question that pops into my brain is, how did you monetize the blog? And then how were you also scaling your own income as you're walking through this, right? Because I'm assuming that, the blog is making, maybe it's monetized, maybe it's not. You go to work with these different brands. And then now you're also platforming yourself into this marketing agency that I'm assuming was probably bootstrapped. Where was what was the line of income and scalability for you there?
Yeah, so when I was blogging, it was just a side hustle. I mean, I did make about six figures as a blogger and an influencer. So this was in the early days too, when they were just this buzzword influencer. And so I got the opportunity to work with brands on paid partnerships and paid brand deals. So that started to, rack up, and I started to say, okay, I can make money doing this. So when I was blogging, it was at the time before I started working at the beauty brand. Mm-hmm. So when I figured I could make money doing that, I'm like, okay, well, I can continue to reach out to brands to maybe do influencer work with them, posting content on my Instagram page. But essentially, yes, I did bootstrap the business. So when I left my job, I did have some savings. And I know everyone wants to quit their job, but realistically, you have to have a plan and really figure out what you're going to do, because you may not get a client for months and months. And so I had a plan. I just had faith, to be honest. So I did have, some savings from being an influencer. So that really was helpful. But to scale an agency, bootstrapping is really hard. So what I did was I had some, people in my network. I went to and said, hey, I started this agency. Would you like to work with us? We're doing social media management. So I initially started with one client. And when I figured out how I could scale that, then I started to hire someone to help me do the work. So that way I can now get more clients, and also this person can help me. And so if the person is the right person, they should be able to help you generate more income so that you can get more clients. And the way that I was able to scale that was stacking retainer clients. And so at one point I had like 8 clients. This is when 2020, during the pandemic. I'm like, oh my God, this is like really great. So I was really able to scale, I believe, when the pandemic first happened, because people were really looking for marketing and really looking for new ways. They may have had a brick and mortar and they were screwed. Now they needed a different way to market their business. So I really got busy during that time. And that's when I really stacked the income for the agency and was able to scale that way.
That's incredible. I love that. I love that you call it stacking. I love that you kind of talk about how you went out, you found all this business, you kind of pulled it all into a retain, or, all these consistent retainers, and were able to grow from there. When during 2020, I totally feel you on a lot of the brands pivoting. What were some of the trends that you were seeing, and what are you also seeing now? Because I feel like the marketing industry from 2020 was such a big, lets everyone take time to learn, to explore, to test things that we've never tested before. And now, being that we're in 2023, we're also kind of seeing like this whole shift of like, well, what is I just feel like the marketing landscape's also changing now in 2023.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel at that time people were at home, right? So if you had a candle company, if you had bath products, it was really a good time for you, because
Like your
more
time to
people
shine.
were, yeah,
Yeah.
more people were at home. So I think back then, those were the type of brands that was really, trying to get in front of people, like the stay at home and all of the, like DoorDash and Uber Eats and, Shipped for
Mhm.
bringing your grocery delivery, and influencers fit into that, because now those brands want to partner with those influencers. And so I saw a lot of influencer partnerships on the rise, but also some, in the not so good place, because what they were offering wasn't really great for that time. I think the time that we are in now is more people are going outside. So if you want to develop, say, a course, it may be a little bit harder to do something like that, but you just have to make sure that it's for the right people. But I think we're in a space now of more people are now going out. And so if you have a business that involves, of course, events, now events are back happening. So I think it's a little bit different. We're still in the video. So I don't think that's going anywhere, but I did see definitely a shift in just the different type of campaigns that clients were working on. I think now we're more back to I don't want to say level playing field, but maybe a more level playing field versus everybody being at home.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. What are your thoughts on TikTok? What are your thoughts on new platforms emerging? Because obviously you've been in social media since you are an OG. You are there from the beginning, which I love when people say I was on Wordspace and is it Wordspace? I don't even know if it was.
Blogger.
Thank you. And blogger. And whenever you hear that, like you were like the original blogger. And it's funny because my background comes from hospitality. And so that was a huge thing back then, is that we actually started working with travel bloggers, and they were called like opinion leaders at that time. There wasn't the word influencer or creators. But so going back to that, what do you think of this whole new social media landscape that we're dealing with?
Well, video is here to stay. I don't think that it will be going anywhere anytime soon. I think TikTok is a really good app. It just depends on what type of business you have. Like, of course, fitness people and coaches and consultants are doing really well on there. But there's also people who teach math. Me and my husband watch people on TikTok do ASMR content and get paid. every single day. So you could literally do anything you want to on TikTok. I think it's wide open. I don't think it's as judgy as Instagram. Instagram started off as this place, of course, where all the overly aesthetics and everybody's house is beautiful, but I think that's also changing. It's not the same. People want authentic content. And if you can offer that on Instagram, I think that your Instagram will grow in this time because people are craving authentic content. Long gone are the days of where your feed has to be perfect. I mean, it really depends on what type of brand you have, because if you're an interior designer, of course it needs to look beautiful, because I don't want to come and see that. But again, it doesn't have to be so perfect. And I think that's why a lot of people gravitated towards TikTok, because it's less pressure to show up, right? To show up with a beat face and all these things. And I just try to tell people, you don't even have to have makeup to go live. Like, go live as yourself. Like, you'll attract the right type of people. So I think TikTok and Instagram definitely aren't going anywhere. I honestly love Facebook. I think Facebook is a really great place to get high ticket clients and to get clientele in general. Utilizing your personal Facebook page, they now have an option where you can create a professional page. So 2 years ago, I started to build my Facebook and not only accept people who are my family and friends, but just anybody could see my page. And it has helped me tremendously, because now I have a Facebook following, and half of these people are other business owners, and they may be looking for marketing. And so I've gotten a lot of high ticket and retainer clients from Facebook as well. So there's a new option where you can turn your regular page into a professional page, but you have to kind of use it as a professional page and a business page in order to get that option.
Okay, hold on. Let's stay here for 1 second, because I am so under the belief that Facebook is kind of dying out. So for you to bring this up is like very new to me. So there's, just so I'm hearing this correctly. So on your personal Facebook, right? There's also an option to have a professional page. And I'm assuming that's different than like a business page for like brands.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Interesting. So is it more or less kind of like taking on like a LinkedIn kind of feel? Like
Yes.
what are you seeing? How do you engage too with people on the professional page?
Yeah, so it's the same as your personal page, but now they give people the option to follow you instead of be your friend. They can just follow your page so they get all your updates. So my page has always been open. I've had it public for years, and it just has been to the benefit of me. But I think that you have to really decide if you want to open your Facebook page to everybody. But I was just sharing like my daughter and what I was doing anyway. So I feel like now I can reach more people, because I shared about things that I'm doing, or my one-on-one calls, or behind the scenes with my clients. So I utilize it in that way, and it intrigues people like, oh, what is she doing? Oh, you're going on a podcast tour. Like, all my podcasts I've been on, I've shared the episodes, and people are like, oh, this is great. So I think really it's not dead. And I know people say Facebook groups are dead too, but they're not dead. I think that you just have to figure out if it's the best way for you, because there's so many new tools. Like with Facebook groups, you can have a private chat, and now you're connected to more people. And even Instagram, this is new, they're now having a private chat, like where you can broadcast to your audience. So not necessarily that they can talk to you, but kind of like a text message thread, and they'll be able to see what you're broadcasting and like it and put an emoji, but they can't talk back to you, but you can broadcast to them. This is something new.
Wait, are we talking? Okay. Oh my God, Michelle, so many.
That was for Instagram. The last part was about Instagram.
So many things. Okay. Hold on. Before we move on to Instagram, because there's a lot of questions just in that section. Do you feel like the audience that is on Facebook, though, do you feel like it is an older crowd? Like, do you feel like it's an older, more established crowd versus the TikToks versus even Instagram? Like, what are your thoughts on who is inhabiting Facebook and who's on there on a regular basis?
I think it is an older crowd. I think it's millennials. So anyone, who's a millennial is definitely on Instagram. I think Gen Z is probably not on Instagram. They are on TikTok. But I'm a millennial, so I like Facebook, and I've always been on it since 2005, since we had walls and we had to scan our pictures in there. There was no camera. There was no status. There was nothing, no events. So I've been on these social media apps, like, and even MySpace. But yes, Facebook, I think it is definitely a really great place. It's not dead. It's just you have to really figure out what how you can utilize it best for you. But it is definitely older people. I will say even older people, maybe in their 50s or 60s, are on Facebook, and they utilize it. So if your client is within that range, then definitely, just like if you feel like your client may be on LinkedIn, which we may talk about later, but that may be an older crowd as well. But yes, Facebook is definitely an older crowd. I think Instagram is millennials too. I don't think a lot of Gen Zs are on Instagram. And if they are, they're not using it the same way that millennials would use it. I think TikTok is in Snapchat. They're on TikTok and Snapchat. I
Yeah.
don't even have a Snapchat. So yeah,
I
definitely
know.
the older crowd.
Okay, I love that. Okay, so now let's move this forward to Instagram. Okay, so I know Instagram came out with the I don't know what the exact word of it is called, but it's basically like the status, right? So it's like your bubble at the top when you're inside your messages, and you can write like it kind of reminds me of like, do you remember like the instant messaging days, like AIM and
AOL chat.
yes, it kind of reminds me of that. But this you're saying is more of like a broadcast to your community. Okay, tell me how to do this, because obviously I'm thinking like my podcast, anytime I make an announcement, like that's a huge thing.
Yeah, it's coming out. I don't think they rolled it out to everybody. I literally just read about it today. But yes, you'll be able to broadcast to your audience. So, yes, about your podcast episodes, about your summit that's coming up, about your coaching program, but they can't talk back to you. So, I think it's a good opportunity for your community, and they have to opt into it. So, just like a text message, you would have to opt into that. So, if they're willing to opt in, it's like, hey, this is my private community. You can even share videos with them or send voice notes. So, it's a broadcast, and I think it's going to be really great for creators like us who, have a podcast or do courses or whatever, because now you can broadcast to them and they get the notification versus you having to fight against the algorithm.
I love it. I do have another question for you, and it's kind of moving us from mainly being on social media and being a creator on social media, but more to now these platforms that are helping you monetize within the platform. Like, for example, Patreon, or for example, even like OnlyFans. And I know OnlyFans is a little bit different, but what do you think about that kind of trend of platforms that are coming out now, where it's like they're actually setting up users to pay subscriptions to these creators on an actual creator basis? Like, for example, I love Queen Herbie on TikTok, and she's basically all of her music. She was like this independent artist, and all of her music went viral like from 2020 on. And then she basically now does this really cool thing where she's like, there's so much more to me. I have a podcast. She does like really cool energy healing, like all via TikTok. And she started this Patreon account, and it's like $5 to subscribe to all of her podcasts and all of her content. And honestly, I was like, I'm not one to like buy into stuff like that. Like that just has never been me. Like I have my like comfort creators, I have my comfort influencers, but I've never been one that's like, I need to subscribe to their content. And I know that Instagram's done that. I know that there's been a couple other platforms that have tried to do that for exclusive content. But I felt like this was so interesting because the way that they have the platform set up, you're more so going directly to them to watch their content. What do you think about platforms that are emerging that have creators on them that you're paying to watch and to see?
We're in the creator economy. I like it. I think for Instagram, I was like, do I want to create a subscription? I mean, I have the option, but I haven't. So one platform that I have been using is called Stan. So you might have saw it on TikTok, but it is like the link in bio, but instead of like link free, now you can have your own store. So someone can come to the store, book a one-on-one call with me, see my podcast, go to my affiliate links, download my digital products and buy them right from there, even courses, memberships, everything. So there's more platforms like this emerging to help creators like us. And it's similar to probably Gumroad, but Gumroad actually just came out and said that they're taking a cut of the creators' money. And Stan, which I've been with since August of 2022, I've made almost $13,000 with digital products, downloads, one-on-one calls, challenges, courses. And so they don't take a cut of your money. The only cut is like from Stripe and PayPal fees.
Mm-hmm.
And this platform doesn't take your money, and they are for the creators. A creator actually created it. His name is John And it's been awesome. So I think that these platforms that are merging like that are going to help creators. And if you do have exclusive content that you want to sell, it's good because now, like, I have a membership program and I have stuff that I don't talk about on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere else. And now people can subscribe to be a part of my membership via these platforms.
Yeah, I love this. I use Beacons, and I know Beacons is trying, it almost seems like Beacons is actually moving more in this direction. I'm looking at Stan right now. I've never even heard of it, but I'm like, this is genius, especially if you, like you said, creator courses or even like consulting, right? I'm sure maybe you probably have some people that try to opt in for different things like that. But I love this because it is now also too, these link in bios are actually able to cut through the kind of consumer barrier or noise of actually making the purchase, right? Where I think is before all this stuff, you'd have to go to their Instagram, you'd have to click their link in bio, you go to the website, you'd have to go through the whole checkout process. And now we're seeing like so much more mobile, like purchasing and really being able to make this quick, make it fast. So it's great. I mean, I feel like it's great for the consumer, but it's also incredible for the creator, right? Like they're actually able to monetize in such a quicker way that doesn't feel like you're signing up or doesn't feel like you're making a super hefty purchase, which I think a lot of people are so naturally like kind of, oh, like they're desensitized to the checkout process. So I love this. I think this is so smart.
And they have studied the consumer psychology and checkout process that it's scrolling, because if someone comes from Instagram, that's how they're scrolling, right? So it's mobile optimized in that way, but also it's a one-click checkout. So if you ever bought anything like on my Stand store, it's you put your information in one click and you get whatever it is that you want. You don't have to go to another page, because that's where you lose people in conversions.
Yeah.
My conversions from last week were 48%.
Holy cow. This is so incredible, Michelle. This is such a good piece of information for all the creators listening, or even those that are like, I want to launch a membership. I want to be a coach. Like this is, I mean, I'm going to sign up for this. This is awesome.
Yes, sign up. I'm telling everyone, sign up for Stan. I've been a part of it. I don't get behind apps and tools that I really haven't used and trusted. And again, since August, I've made $12,000, not even doing anything hard. I'm going to be completely honest. I, of course, have funnels and systems and things, but I think that that's a good chunk of money just to be like one of the income streams that I have now. I think every creator should have multiple income streams. So as you're listening to me talk, like I have an agency, I do digital products, I speak, I have a podcast. It's important to have multiple streams because that's how you obviously become a millionaire quicker and just create generational wealth. But again, you want to have multiple streams and not just focus on like Instagram per se or TikTok, because what if that dries up? And what if you don't have an email list? So just start to think about those things.
I love that. And I want to kind of capitalize on something that you just said. So the whole point of this podcast is talking about influence. It's talking about building influence, or, you know, in so many other ways, you know, how are you building that generational wealth? How are you building this life? You know, what does influence mean to you? I want to ask you as an entrepreneur, what are some of the ways that you've built this community? You've built your own influence, right? Because for you, yes, you started off as a blogger. People obviously were, you know, attracted to that and they followed you and they learned and they, you know, they trusted you. But how did you convert that into making money for now people to come work with you on like a coaching basis? Like how did that work? How did that shift happen?
Yeah, I think building community is very important. And since I was very adamant about that in the beginning, I created and cultivated relationships with the people who are following me. And so since I share my journey from being an influencer in the natural hair world to now being a marketing strategist, I shared everything in between. So many of the people who are following me have come along that journey and they've seen that shift. And so I built that like, know, and trust. And so when I did start to say, okay, now I'm selling something, they were more apt to buy it because they knew who I was already. They've been following me for years. I've had people on my email list who may have been following me 2 years, and maybe yesterday they bought something for the first time. So it really is about the numbers, and it really is about people trusting you in this online world. I think that if you're authentic and you actually have really great products, I give 100% money back guarantee on my products because I know that it's good. I've done the research. I'm not giving out crappy things. And if you feel like it wasn't meant for you, I mean, that's great. But I put a guarantee on that because of that, because I know what I put into it. So I think that if you showcase, what you're doing, and of course, going back to that personal brand, I've built a personal brand. And so when I pivoted, it wasn't really like a big shift because they saw it coming. They saw like the evolution. So community is very important. And I feel that that's what's lacking among many, many creators. If you really want to build influence, I think that number one, you should be in it for the right reasons. I'm not in it for the money. The money is just extra. I really love helping people build brands, build podcasts, build a online business doing what you love. And so it comes across in every single thing that I do. And so if you are passionate about whatever it is that you're doing, it will come across in that. And when you build that community, they will feel that. So I think community is like key. So if you want to sell something, you want to create raving fans. And that's what I did at My Organics. And that's why they're a multi-successful, multi-million-dollar business, because of the community that they created.
That is so well said. And so just, I mean, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Michelle. So our final question, and thank you so much for coming on the show. I feel like I could continue to talk to you forever. And I'm also going on your show, Social Media Decoded, which I'm so excited about.
And community is very important. And since I was very adamant about that in the beginning, I created and cultivated relationships with the people who are following me. And so since I shared my journey from being an influencer in the natural hair world to now being a marketing strategist, I shared everything in between. So many of the people who are following me have come along that journey and they've seen that shift. And so I built that like, know, and trust. And so when I did start to say, okay, now I'm selling something, they were more apt to buy it because they knew who I was already. They've been following me for years. I've had people on my email list who may have been following me 2 years, and maybe yesterday they bought something for the first time. So it really is about the numbers, and it really is about people trusting you in this online world. I think that if you're authentic and you actually have really great products, I give 100% money back guarantee on my products because I know that it's good. I've done the research. I'm not giving out crappy things. And if you feel like it wasn't meant for you, I mean, that's great. But I put a guarantee on that because of that, because I know what I put into it. So I think that if you showcase, what you're doing, and of course, going back to that personal brand, I've built a personal brand. And so when I pivoted, it wasn't really like a big shift because they saw it coming. They saw like the evolution. So community is very important. And I feel that that's what's lacking among many, many creators. If you really want to build influence, I think that number one, you should be in it for the right reasons. I'm not in it for the money. The money is just extra. I really love helping people build brands, build podcasts, build a online business doing what you love. And so it comes across in every single thing that I do. And so if you are passionate about whatever it is that you're doing, it will come across in that. And when you build that community, they will feel that. So I think community is like key. So if you want to sell something, you want to create raving fans. And that's what I did at My Organics. And that's why they're a multi-successful, multi-million-dollar business, because of the community that they created.
That is so well said. But I have one final question for you, and that is, what does influence mean to you?
Oh, I love that. And thank you so much for having this. Has been awesome. I think what influence means to me is making a difference and being able to change people's lives by sharing my story online, because I had no clue that anything that I'm doing today is possible. My goals was to go to school, get a degree, and get a good paying job and stay there like till you retire. And so I'm passionate about helping other people do the same thing that I do. So that is what influence means to me, is by being able to change other people's lives, their perspectives, just around, you can build an online business if you want to be a VA, a creator, whatever it is. So that's what influence means to me.
Michelle, you have been spectacular. And thank you so much again for coming on. Where can everyone find you? How can they work with you? Drop all the links.
Yes, of course. You can find me. I love being on Instagram. So my Instagram is at Michelle L. Thames. And if you want to work with me, my stand store is the best way. You can hit me up on Instagram or send me a DM, but I have the one-on-one calls and everything that I do in my stand store. So if you're interested, you could take a look there.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for going under the influence with us.
Thank you so much.